In line with the open letter to the American people that Iranian President Pezeshkian penned a few months ago, the Iranian government has once again communicated the truth directly to the world, but particularly to the American people. In response to the dishonest, abridged version of the Memorandum of Understanding that was circulated from the White House by the U.S. media, that was signed by the United States government and the Iranian government, here is the full text of the MOU signed by both parties. So let's go through it together. Now, here, as we see on this website, this is Al Mayadeen, one of the sources I go to for Middle Eastern news, and they have the full text of the MOU signed with the U.S., as was reported by Tasnim News Agency. So here is the full text, and let's go through the articles. Article number 1. The United States of America and the Islamic Republic of Iran and their allies in the current war, by signing this MOU, declare the immediate and permanent termination of military operations on all fronts, including in Lebanon, and undertake from now on not to initiate any war or any military operation against each other, and to refrain from the threat or use of force against each other, and ensuring the territorial integrity and sovereignty of Lebanon. Final deal will confirm the permanent termination of the war on all fronts, including in Lebanon, and other provisions of this paragraph. Now, notice this first article equalizes the relationship between the two parties going forward, even though it was the United States that attacked Iran without any provocation from Iran. This first article invites us to examine who started this war, how it was started, and what was said and done by whom throughout. That should lead us to understand that the U.S. started this, and that Iran is trying to end it diplomatically after defending itself appropriately. Article number 2. The United States of America and the Islamic Republic of Iran undertake to respect each other's sovereignty and territorial integrity, and to refrain from interfering in each other's internal affairs. Now, this article invites us to ask the question, who interfered in whose internal affairs? Asking this question would lead us to learn that this hatred of Iran in the U.S. is a decades-old issue that traces back to the 1950s, if not beyond, and the U.S. interfering in Iran's internal affairs. And learning this will help us understand the difference between the pro-bombing Iranians in the US and Europe and the Iranians in the country defending Iran from US and Israeli bombs. Article number 3. The United States of America and the Islamic Republic of Iran commit to negotiating and achieving the final deal in maximum 60 days, extendable with mutual consent. See, Iran understands that signing this MOU does not mean anything is actually over. So we should not be confused either. But there are some things that Iran has pointed out must happen immediately. Like in article number 4, which reads, immediately upon the signing of this MOU, The United States of America will begin the removal of its naval blockade and any disturbances or impediments against the Islamic Republic of Iran and will fully end the naval blockade within 30 days. During this period, the traffic of vessels will be in proportion to the numbers of pre-war traffic being restored by the Islamic Republic of Iran. The United States of America further undertakes to remove its forces from the proximity of the Islamic Republic of Iran within 30 days after the final deal. Now, here, in my opinion, is the first sign of U.S. capitulation, the first sign that Iran really did win this round. Iran never closed the Strait of Hormuz to all traffic, just to Israel and the United States and their allies. All other vessels could go through, but they had to pay a toll, and others did. The U.S. blockade wasn't to control the Strait of Hormuz, it was to punish the countries whose vessels were paying the toll to Iran to traverse the Strait of Hormuz. The United States government, through its military, literally tried to punish other countries that respected Iran's sovereignty. The other noteworthy issue in this article, I think, is that Iran demands that the U.S. has to remove its forces from even being close to Iran. That's what proximity means. Get out of our area. If you're close to us, get less close to us. Get away from us. Leave us alone. How about article number 5? Upon the signing of this MOU, the Islamic Republic of Iran will make arrangements using its best efforts for the safe passage of commercial vessels with no charge for 60 days only from the Persian Gulf to the Sea of Oman and vice versa. The traffic of commercial vessels will immediately start, and considering the need for removing the technical and military obstacles and demining by the Islamic Republic of Iran, will be instated within 30 days. The Islamic Republic of Iran will continue dialogue with the Sultanate of Oman to define the future administration and maritime services in the Strait of Hormuz in discussion with other Persian Gulf littoral states in line with the applicable international law and the sovereign rights of coastal states of the Strait of Hormuz. Two noteworthy things in this article, I think. Number one, Iran declares that it will lift the toll on commercial vessels going through the strait, but only for 60 days. And two, more important, I think, Iran will consult with the Gulf states that border the Strait of Hormuz on managing the Strait of Hormuz. Despite Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump's claims, the U.S. controls nothing in that region. And Iran has just declared that the U.S. will never control anything or have any input into the management of the Strait of Hormuz. And the oil under Iran are also off limits to the United States. I really like this article. It's really fantastic. And I think it gives us a very clear indication of who won this battle. Because don't the victors determine the spoils? Yeah. Let's go on to article number 6. The United States of America undertakes with regional partners to develop a definitive, mutually agreed plan with at least $300 billion for the reconstruction and economic development of the Islamic Republic of Iran. The mechanism for the implementation of this plan will be finalized as part of a final deal within 60 days. All required licenses, waivers, and permissions needed for the relevant financial transactions will be granted by the United States of America. Iran demands a Marshall Plan. That's what this reads like to me. Call it reparations if you'd like, restitution, payback, whatever. But Iran is able to demand financial and infrastructure redevelopment commitments from the country that destroyed civilian infrastructure and murdered thousands, tens of thousands of Iranian people on a massive scale for no reason other than imperialist hegemony and, of course, a little personal ego and religious fanaticism of the Trump white Christian Zionist regime. Article number 7. The United States of America undertakes to terminate all types of sanctions against the Islamic Republic of Iran, including the United Nations Security Council resolutions, i.e., the IAEA Board of Governors resolutions, and all unilateral U.S. sanctions, primary and secondary, in an agreed upon schedule as part of the final deal. The Islamic Republic of Iran and the United States of America acknowledge the critical importance of the sanctions termination issue above mentioned and expressed their intentions to immediately address these issues in the negotiations in order to achieve mutual agreement on them. Now, this article should cause us to ask about sanctions. What are sanctions? How many sanctions are imposed on Iran? How long has Iran been sanctioned by the U.S.? How do these sanctions affect the people of Iran? What are primary and secondary sanctions? The answers to all of these questions and more about sanctions and Iran will result in learning how the U.S. and institutions like the United Nations have used sanctions to punish people for not wanting a capitalist, imperialist, also known as U.S. controlled government. And I think it is also interesting that Iran points out that the U.S. expressed commitment to addressing this issue almost as if it is reminding the U.S. of their commitment because they're expecting them to renege on it. And we should also be asking if that's ever happened before. You know, the U.S. reneging on its commitments with Iran, because of course it has, just in the last few weeks. But let's move on to the next article. Number 8. The Islamic Republic of Iran reaffirms that it shall not procure or develop nuclear weapons. The United States of America and the Islamic Republic of Iran have agreed to resolve the disposition of stockpiled enriched material pursuant to a mechanism that will be mutually agreed upon in accordance with the schedule mentioned in paragraph 7, with the minimum methodology to be downblending on site under the supervision of the IAEA. The two parties also agreed to discuss the issue of enrichment and other mutually agreed matters related to the Islamic Republic of Iran's nuclear needs based on a satisfactory framework being agreed upon in the final deal. The final deal will confirm the provisions of this paragraph. The United States of America and the Islamic Republic of Iran acknowledge the critical importance of the nuclear issues aforementioned and express their intention to immediately address these issues in the negotiations in order to achieve mutual agreement on them. Pending the final deal, and this is Article 9, the United States of America and the Islamic Republic of Iran agreed to maintain the status quo. The Islamic Republic of Iran will maintain the current status quo of its nuclear program, and the United States of America will not impose any new sanctions and will not deploy additional forces in the region. Iran has always said this. This has always been true. Iran has never pursued, nor have they ever had, a nuclear weapon, and they have repeatedly proven that and declared they will not build one. The reasons for them declaring they will not build a nuclear weapon are irrelevant in the face of the fact that Iran has never violated any nuclear agreement, and every entity, including the United States, has always known this to be true. Everything they and Israel have claimed about Iran being weeks away from building a bomb and using it on Israel has always been a Zionist white supremacist lie to justify all of this aggression toward Iran. So this is literally where Iran was before the US attacked it in regard to its nuclear program, which exists for domestic energy production. This is what Iran has always said because this is what has always been true. This is the status quo. The US did all this under the guise of stopping a nuclear weapon that didn't exist, just to have it confirmed that the nuclear weapon does not exist. And the people they claimed were building the nuclear weapon has said for the 111th time that they will not build one and they don't want to build one. That's the status quo Iran will maintain because that's been the status quo all this time, despite all the lies and these months of evil, evil war. This article also backs the US into a corner on those lies, challenging that reason that was given to attack Iran in the first place. No nuclear weapons, so you can't punish Iran in any way going forward for allegedly trying to build them now. Iran has laid this lie bare. Next article. It is Article 10. The United States of America undertakes that immediately upon the signing of this MOU, until the termination of sanctions, the U.S. Department of Treasury will issue waivers for the export of Iranian crude oil, petroleum products, and derivatives, and all associated services, including banking, transactions, insurances, transportation, etc. Iran seems to have thought of a few ways the U.S. might try to get out of lifting the sanctions, it seems to me. If the U.S. says something like, well, lifting the sanctions are going to take some time, so the entities that were sanctioned may have to wait a while to be able to return to engaging in business on the global market fully, Iran said, no, we're not going to have that problem. Because the Department of the Treasury, as this process of lifting the sanctions plays out, the Department of Treasury is going to waive the restrictions on these things so we can carry these things out right now until the sanctions are fully removed and dismantled. And it's not just lifting restrictions on Iranian exports that will be done immediately either, because in the next article, Article 11, it says the United States of America undertakes to make fully available for use the frozen or restricted funds and assets of the Islamic Republic of Iran upon the implementation of this MOU. The United States of America and the Islamic Republic of Iran will mutually agree on the procedures related to the release of these funds during the negotiations. Such funds, either retained in the original account or transferred, shall be made fully usable for payment to any ultimate beneficiary designated by the Central Bank of the Islamic Republic of Iran. The United States of America undertakes to issue all necessary licenses and authorizations accordingly. This article states plainly, all the money and assets of Iran that the U.S. seized, stole, froze must be released to Iran right now. Aren't you wondering what Iranian money and assets the U.S. even has? You should be. And when you find out, you'll understand why Iran has demanded their country's wealth back. On to the next article. And that is Article 12. The United States of America and the Islamic Republic of Iran agree that an executive mechanism will be established to monitor the successful implementation of this MOU and the future compliance of the final deal. Because, I mean, seriously, I wouldn't trust the United States of America to keep its word either. I mean, this is the country that violated every treaty it signed with the indigenous people after they genocided most of them, and then never did any of the things that they promised to do for the formerly enslaved people and their descendants, even when those so-called promises were supposed to be established by law. Yes, here we are. So good on you, Iran. I wouldn't trust these people either. And then the final article says that after signing, I'm sorry, no, this is Article 13, not the final article. I'm getting ahead of myself. After signing this MOU, Article 13 says, and subject to the beginning of the implementation of paragraphs 1, 4, 5, 10, and 11 of this MOU, and the continuing implementation of these measures, the United States of America and the Islamic Republic of Iran will start negotiations regarding the final deal exclusively on the other paragraphs. Do you notice the timeline there? We signed this document. These articles of this MOU will be implemented right now. Once they are implemented, then we'll start negotiations on the other things. That's how this is going to go. And if that's not how this goes, then this doesn't go any further. The final article, number 14, the final deal will be endorsed by a binding UN Security Council resolution. So this is the full text of the Memorandum of Understanding signed by U.S. President Donald Trump and Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian earlier today, and today is Thursday, June 18th. You can get the full text of this document on the Al Mayadeen website, also on Tasnim News Agency's website. I wouldn't trust too many American outlets with the full text. Here it is for you. I don't have much confidence that the United States of America will stick to this deal and not sabotage the negotiations in some way. I know that Israel refuses to adhere to any deal with Iran, will not listen to the United States at all, and has belligerently declared they will not leave Lebanon, even as they continue to ethnically cleanse parts of southern Lebanon while still committing genocide in Gaza and now extending it through their settler psychopaths in the West Bank. But this MOU is an example of what we anti-imperialists mean, I believe, when we say that we will win when we seize state power. Because only a state with the power to back up its demands can make demands like this of another state that is just as powerful, allegedly, or in this case, in the case of the United States, the clearly waning power in comparison to the emerging and underestimated dominance of a sleeping giant in Iran and its military might, its strategy, and its sheer resilience. The fact that Iran has the power to demand these concessions of the United States does not mean that they will automatically get them, even after Iran has also defeated the United States militarily. As you can see, they still have to navigate the treacherous waters of negotiating with your enemy. That is the United States. And they're the terrorists. That is always dangerous. But the point I think we should not miss here is that you cannot even get to the negotiation phase if you are not organized, established, and can wield enough grassroots political and social power to challenge the state you are in right now. And then you have to take that further and win that state for yourself and use its power for the good of the people in order to even be able to challenge another state, let alone demand concessions of it. And Iran has done this more than once, challenging the Western imperialist backed dictators imposed on them, coup attempts, infiltrations, color revolutions imposed on them by US and British imperialist forces inside their own country to seize their own state from these fascist imperialist forces. And then they used that state power that they seized to challenge those forces outside of that state, those same imperialist fascist forces that attacked them for seizing state power. And then they finally have the state power to fight the imperialist power directly to protect the sovereignty and self-determination they won in those struggles. This says to me, if I explain that clearly enough, that if you want an oppressive state to make right the violations it's committed against you, you can only accomplish that by seizing that oppressive state and dismantling it and restructuring it to build something for the people, by the people, and put it in the hands of the people. Then the people will have the power of that state in their hands and the state's resources to provide what the state's previous ruling class, ruling capitalist, fascist, Zionist class that was run out of town by the people had refused them previously. I congratulate the people of Iran for this inspiring victory and the masterclass in military and propaganda strategy they have given us to learn from. But I am not deceived. They are not deceived. The signing of this MOU does not signal the end of anything. The United States does not want to give up its hegemony in the region because its presence there has to be maintained for its plans to attempt to dominate the Far East. Israel wants Iran destroyed because Iran is the immovable component of the axis of resistance against Zionism. Without a strong Iran in the region, Israel has free reign because the U.S. will make sure Israel has free reign because Israel is the U.S. outpost in the Near East for control of that region and a launching pad for some future attack on China and eventually North Korea and Russia, that this is what the US thinks they're going to do in that region. The signing of this MOU won't stop the bombs from dropping on Iran and Lebanon, though. I don't think it will. Maybe for a couple of hours, but in the long term, the mass murders I don't think will stop happening, especially not those committed by Israel. But I do believe this MOU and the signing of it is a significant leap toward a new understanding among the people of the US and maybe the collective West about the real role of the United States of America and Israel in the world, and who the enemy of the people and of world peace really are. It has never been Iran.